such an advantage. Now, the potential drawbacks, the potential issues for the team, I don't trust Buddy Hield. Not even in a playoff series. I mean, right now. I mean,
I didn't know you were going to go here. But Buddy Hield is a quintessential Steve Kerr, I think, vet guy. Where I think Steve loves Buddy Hield. I think he loves the spacing. I think he loves the fact he's a vet bench guy, and he's like, if I trust him, if I give him enough confidence and get him out there, I think Buddy Hield's actually a really good player if you just play him off the bench as a microwave scorer guy. But they put him in these situations where. Dude, they lost to that Dallas game the other week because they had him guarding Kyrie basically from the start of the game and end of the game, and you're just kind of sitting there. For me, it's like, I don't trust Buddy Hield, but it's like, Steve, can you just stop doing the kumbaya stuff? Just bench him, just bench him. Yeah. And Kuminga's going to come back and yeah.
The other looming problem,
but he's a great guy. He's just a great guy.
Right now we're in a lather. We're loving the Jimmy Butler honeymoon. We're talking ourselves into a 5th Steph Curry championship, but there's this looming Kuminga return and the prospect that the sum is less than the whole of its parts. Is this the big fear? Not articulated in the national media, but articulated from observant Warriors watchers.
I'm waiting for.
Yeah, it's is he actually going to fit in and play off of off of Jimmy or not? It's kind of, and the politics around it. That's the part that you're bearing the lead on. But that's the real thing. He wants to be a star. He wants the ball in his hands. He wants to be Jimmy. Let's be real. He wants to be Jimmy. He's not Jimmy, but he wants to be Jimmy. And he's going to force tough decisions. And then what happens? What happens if he gets benched in crunch time? What happens if he can't pick it up as quick? And honestly, it's not really I kind of blame management on this. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
You've watched him. What makes you think he can overnight figure this out at this speed, right? Sometimes you got to just make those decisions. So yeah, I mean, it is kind of the question.
I think local media is pushing this. Yeah. I'm wary. I'm wary because it's sneaky, but Kuminga's been bad this season. He has an insane usage for a guy that shoots the way that he does. It doesn't make any sense. And he has the usage because, to Sam's point, he wants to be Jimmy Butler, and he doesn't have the IQ to do it. So they want him to come back, and Steve always says this, and this is how you know. This is how you know Steve doesn't trust him, because Steve's always kind of coming back and saying I think he's a 3 or a 4, whatever Steve thinks he is. And he's going to be the point of attack defender, and he's going to cut. It's Steve knows that Kuminga doesn't want to do any of that shit. Kuminga wants to get the ball. He wants to pull, and that's what he wants to do.
And they would badly need him if he would just submit to what they need. If he said, look, I will be your Nuggets Aaron Gordon.
Oh yeah.
I will be this guy that you need me to be. You need a body in this series against Luka and LeBron.
Yep.
I will be that for you. But that's just not the mentality. And I think that is the fear right now. The looming, lingering fear is, how does that get incorporated into this team and situation? Yeah, Andy?
I wish you were still covering the team, because then I could be like, so what's Steve's thinking right now about this, Ethan? You know what I mean? I'd be like, can you just text him? Can you just call Steve right now and just ask him? Be like, yo,
your favorite guy, Steve. What if I put him on FaceTime right now?
Well, that's my goat,
Andy, man. Lou.
That's my goat. No.
Well, maybe Steve's
maybe tell her. Maybe tell her.
I mean, you're talking about Margot? Margo, she might not be happy with this. With a disreputable Andy Liu I'm doing a podcast with. I will tell her, if she reaches out, that Andy has only said nice things. All that was required that the Warriors get Jimmy Butler, and everything's forgiven. Everything's
stop wasting
fine.
Our time.
I'll end on this right here. I'll end on this right here.
All right.
Speaking of that, because we're talking about Kuminga, the Kuminga problem, because it's really about managing emotions. You're asking me, what does Steve Kerr think? I know I would say a lot about how Steve thinks about coaching, and it's taught me a lot about the NBA. And I would talk to him sometimes, I would say, man, I didn't know that so much goes into just managing guys' feelings as an NBA coach. You don't really think about that. And he'd go, yeah, that's most of coaching. And so this is going to seem like a bit of a shot. I don't want it to be, but I saw this debate break out because Popovich is stepping aside due to health concerns. And I wish him the best, to be clear about it. But then it doesn't just stop with people saying, we wish you well. It turns into he's actually the greatest coach ever. Then it turns into an NBA Twitter discussion. I think it was kickstarted by old Dragonfly Jones about how he was better than Phil Jackson because Phil Jackson was great at managing egos, but not necessarily rosters where the players weren't as good, which I think is debatable to say the least. But I think what gets lost when people have these conversations and talk about how, well, Steve Kerr, he's good at managing egos. So when you have a team of superstars and guys who can win the championship, that's who you want. But there's this other kind of coach where they're better at... No, great coaches can manage egos. That is the majority of coaching, whether you've got a bad team or a good team. Kuminga is a good example of this. Why is he a good example of this? Because he's not an all-star and he's not a superstar. And the Warriors are in a situation where they've got to manage his ego. And this is going to be the case, whatever team we're talking about, whatever team we're discussing, a lot of the job is that. I just saw this, well, some of this movie nobody saw in the first Saturday Night Live episode, this fictional portrayal. And the fictional portrayal is of what actually happened for the most part. But there are people behind the scenes. And most of what's happening behind the scenes at Saturday Night Live, it's taking these babies, these performers, these comedians, these artists, and somehow getting them to not melt down, to not ruin the production. And it doesn't look like that's most of it from the outside. You might think it's all strategy and film, and that's a lot of it. Most of it is actually this. Too much of it is this. I'll end on, I had a friend who wasn't a coach but got to watch a team and watch the coaches' meetings. And he said to me, he said, they spent most of the time on how to send this guy to the bench and not lose him. That was what they spent the most time on. Yeah. It was just how to message that, how to manage that. I've seen Steve do it. I've been in the locker room where he just goes over to a guy who's getting sent the Santa Cruz and he's giving them the corporate version of the shit sandwich email where it's like good news, bad news, good news. That's a lot of it. I'm rambling, guys.
He was crying when Lindy Waters got traded. He was acting like a relative got hit in a car, got in a car accident or something like that.
I thought that was real.
No. I mean it that way. Like I mean it. This
versus when D'Angelo Russell got traded, he was doing a jig. No, but yeah.
Well, I can't blame him. Look, this is the test case. I know this is kind of the last beat, but like he got Andrew Wiggins bought in this season. That's a minor miracle that Andrew Wiggins had played this well this season that they could flip him in a trade. That's not nothing, and that's you look at what Steve was saying. Andrew's just a gray human. He's just
beautiful soul.
Beautiful soul. That's what it was. A beautiful soul. The amount of positive reinforcement that Steve Kerr does. Andrew Wiggins is not Steph Curry, man. Like most coaches would probably be like, dude, I'm not dealing with this. And Steve got him to a point where he was just. I think Steve, and I think that's why. To me, I think Steve is the best at it in the NBA. I don't think it's close. So when someone talks to me like these coaches are better than him, I'm like, yeah, X's and O's are X's and O's, man. But like Steph can just run a pick and roll and say, fuck your X's and O's. Half the time it's like, can you just get KD bought in? You know what I mean? Like that was 99% of the struggle when that was the team. So I'm with you.
That's what Steve coaching is, and
Steve's my goat.
And Phil Jackson is the GOAT is really my long winding way of saying it. It's just, this is the thing. It is, again, it's the NBA Twitter thing where you've got to be smarter than dumb. Any dumb casual fan can know that Phil Jackson won 3 three-peats, 11 rings, and know he's the greatest 3-point line era coach. You got to show how smart you are by making an argument about why it's actually somebody who didn't even win half as many rings.